Hi, my name is Greg Waite, and I'm president of the Washington Internship Institute, and I'm happy to be speaking today with Mark Meier. He is an alumni of our program. He attended Gustavus Adolphus College in Minnesota and is currently living in Washington, D.C. right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark to introduce himself and tell us what he's up to right now, and then we'll talk about his internship experience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg, so much for having me, and I really appreciate the chance to talk about my internship experience. Like you said, I'm an alumni of Gustavus Adolphus College, class of 2017, and I was actually part of the Washington Internship Institute in 2017 during the spring semester. So that means I've been in DC almost 4 years now, which is pretty amazing. I've had a number of different job opportunities here in the district. I am currently at a healthcare nonprofit called the Assistance Fund. We provide patient assistance, advocacy, and education to patients who aren't able to afford their prescription and their treatment. So we help thousands of patients every year. In the 10 years we've been founded, we've helped almost 125,000, which is fantastic. So individuals who are living with life-threatening chronic and rare diseases are able to access the medication that they need through our program, which is fantastic. So I love doing that. I'm the communications manager with our small DC office here, and I get to work with a number of great dedicated people in the district who are dedicated to helping patients.
That's awesome. So why did you decide to do the program when you were, back a few years ago, back in Minnesota? Why did you decide you wanted to come to DC for a semester?
For sure. So for me, it actually was a benefit that I was working on campus in our study abroad office in the Center for International and Cultural Education, which is the umbrella program which offers WII at Gustavus Adolphus College. So I was able to find out a little bit more about WII just from having in-person experience working the job of people who were getting people to WII. So when I was looking at different study abroad programs and also looking at domestic programs, I saw WII. And as a political science student, I knew that there was a draw to DC. And so I had to sort out my plan, what was going to happen post college. And I knew moving to DC was something I wanted to experience and take a shot at. So I applied to WII along with a professor there who helped me go through the process. And I came out here in January of 2017. And then spent my internship experience both interning and looking for work, trying to do both at the same time, which I discovered is like 2 full-time jobs.
So what was that internship like? Where were you? What did you do?
Sure, I interned for a member of Congress on the House side. So that was a great experience. It wasn't a member of Congress from my personal district, so I got to learn a lot about the district that I was working with, got to meet a lot of really fantastic people. Got to see a lot of important people. That was very exciting to see what I consider famous people walking through the halls or grabbing a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And while doing that, then I was able to network quite a bit through the House of Representatives and the Senate on the number of different opportunities there and look for work either on the Hill or off the Hill. And I ended up downtown at another healthcare nonprofit.
That's awesome. So what are things that you did or things that you learned or skills or sets of knowledge that you learned in your internship that you've been able to use in the jobs that you've had since you graduated?
Yeah, I had to learn to ask a lot of questions. There were a lot of things coming from the state of Minnesota that I just didn't know because I wasn't here. There are things that naturally you learn as a Washingtonian by being here, physically here. So I had to go into every informational interview and have questions ready and try to understand what I didn't know. And knowing what you don't know has been a really helpful trait for me as I've been professionally working here in the district for almost 4 years.
Talk a little bit more about that sort of networking piece. How were you able to do that in your internship, and sort of what things did you learn about networking during your internship that you've been able to use, to this day?
I learned that I love networking. I had a number of other intern colleagues who could not stand the practice, and I love it. I love getting to meet people who have different stories and different backgrounds. I think that's just fantastic and one of the great things that comes with living in the Washington, D.C. area. So I had to get organized. I had to figure out a calendar. I had to figure out an Excel spreadsheet to keep all these names and emails and different data points and informational bits about them. and keep them all together so that if I needed to ask somebody for a favor or think, oh, I know somebody in this office or at this department or whatever it might be, to reference back to them. Rolodexes are sort of out of date now, but that was my own personal Rolodex to have. So every day I just tried to spend as much time as I could getting to know people and putting myself out there and selling myself and finding that personal brand, which is one of the things that WII was really helpful in teaching me.
Great. Talk a little bit about sort of the students that you were here with, and if you networked with them, and if you're still in contact with them, or what your experience was with, the other people in the program.
Yeah, so I have tried to stay in touch with a number of them. I actually, one of the students who was in my group went back, finished her college experience, and then moved back here and has now been here for over a year. And I've been able to get coffee and drinks with her, and it's fantastic to see where she is going professionally. One of the interesting parts about my specific intern group is a lot of them discovered that DC wasn't right for them. And something about being in the big city or all the networking or something just didn't click. And one of the great things about WII is it gives students that opportunity both to find out that DC is the place for them, but also if it's not the place for them. And so by being a venue for kids and students to try and see, I think WII gives them a great vantage point into the city and deciding their future career.
Well, you decided you loved DC. So tell me a little bit about what you love about living in DC.
Well, the background behind you says it all, the cherry blossoms, getting to walk around in seasons. There are so many different things about the district that I love. The people who live here, the interesting backgrounds. It feels to me a very European city in the United States. It's very small, it's very compact. It doesn't have a lot of large buildings, and you get a lot of boulevard thoroughfare sort of feel to the city, which is different from a lot of other cities in the United States. You have a lot of international students, you have diplomats, you have foreign contingencies that are here. And so there are a lot of people who are learning second and third and fourth languages just to take advantage of that. There are a lot of job opportunities, which is fantastic, and professional opportunities, which make DC a unique kind of place where there's always turnover and change and opportunity for people who are looking to start a career here. But also just on a quiet day, there are lots of great places to go walk and sit in a park and enjoy being in a really pleasant climate. Other than maybe 3 months a year, it's walkable and livable. And for those of us who live here, July is awful, January and February are awful, but basically the rest of the year is fantastic. So there's a lot to keep me here, and I'm glad I'm still here.
Yeah, and I always tell people that DC has some of the best restaurants that I've ever been to, and such a really wide variety of cuisines because it is such an international city. Sunday I went to a brunch at a Georgian restaurant, which Georgia the country, and before I lived here I didn't know that Georgia had its own cuisine or made wine, but yeah, it's that kind of thing where you get to discover all these really great places in Washington and great cultures. And I also think that like you, there's a lot of really smart people here, and they're really passionate about the work they do, and that's exciting to be around. So it's a fun city, but it's also, like you said, it can also be a very peaceful city, and really a nice place just to live and work. So
I could not agree more. Everybody in the city, and when you've lived here long enough, and you've lived here certainly longer than I have, but you continually find new places and new things that you didn't know about.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience with the program?
Yeah, I just want to thank WII for being such a great opportunity for me. And I encourage so many people to apply to WII and become an intern here and to take a few chances. It can be really easy to come here and enjoy the sights and sounds and meet the different people, but then sort of go back to your college and your city and wherever it might be. But take advantage of all the opportunities you have here. It is really easy to go back and get extra sleep and do all the other things that are great, but you have such a chance here while you're in the city interning to really go the extra mile. And I've had the chance to speak with students before, and I always tell them it is perfectly fine to lose 1 extra hour of sleep that night if that's going to be 1 cup of coffee that makes the difference. And you don't know which connection is going to make the difference for you, whether it be personally with a new best friend or professionally. So put yourself out there and take some chances, and it'll be worth it.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for talking with me and sharing your experience with future students, maybe. So I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely. I appreciate the chance, Greg.
Bye.